living, sleeping, eating, and waiting for the enemy 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and all this from the comfort of a hole in the ground.
The battlefield itself, it was sort of like trench warfare. They were in trenches, that in foxholes, if you want to call it that, but that was their home. That's where they slept. That's where they did everything.
2 months at the front meant 2 months in the trenches every night. The trenches weren't very wide, and they were something like 4 feet long. A fighting trench was 4 feet deep, and a communication trench was 8 feet deep. You could walk around without getting shot. We stayed in the trenches like rats. They were all dug out by hand. It was hard to dig, and the shovels they gave us were not very big. A little shovel about that big. We took 8-foot posts, normally used to lay down barbed wire. We put some on top, 1 row, 3 rows, and then we tied it down with communication wire, black wire. And then we stacked sandbags, 2 or 3 rows. A dugout is something to see. Very nice. 4 beautiful dirt walls.
You walked up 1 step, which was probably about 11, 12 inches high, and then you walked down 4 into the bunker where 2 of us could sleep. And in between us, I had my Bren machine gun pointing at this door, which was a blanket.
3 or 4 rows of metal and sandbags on top are enough to contain a mortar bomb. But with an artillery bomb, a 42-pounder that makes a 6-foot deep hole, you'd have ended up under the sandbags and the metal.
From the time that even before the ceasefire, because the actions had been so stable that a lot of defensive lines have been built up. And by then there were deep bunkers and railroad ties over your head and about 10 feet of earth or something that could take quite a bombing before it got down to you.
And seeing the pictures of World War I remind me of Korea at that particular time.
When you're in a trench, you're watching the enemy, and you stay alert. Otherwise, they sneak up on you and kill you or take you prisoner. Anything can happen.
Eventually it becomes a bit routine. That's dangerous. You don't want things to ever get to be too routine because you get despondent, you get careless.
We had a regiment who had stacked its weapons in a pile to go and eat. When they came back, the Chinese were waiting for them with their own weapons. And you couldn't belch out there, and you couldn't do other stuff either, so that the Chinese wouldn't hear you. You couldn't smoke because of the snipers and stuff. But once in a while, you know, like if it was cold and it was 4 a.m, and there was nothing moving around you, you'd take a chance and light a cigarette. And when it rained, it all turned to mud and shit. Real muck, you know. That's what the trenches were like.
We used to always say, keep your slit trench clean and wet or dry, and make sure, you know, you bail the water out of it if it's raining.
I don't think I could ever do it again. I guess it's something you get used to, or you don't get used to, but you have a year to put in, and you make the best of it.